Welcome to American Black Journal. I'm Stephen Henderson. Construction begins tomorrow on Detroit's long-awaited M-1 Rail Streetcar project. It's the first major transit system to be led and funded by a collaboration of private, public, and government entities. The M-1 Rail Streetcar is expected to be up and running in late 2016. It'll travel 3.3 miles on both sides of Woodward Avenue between Larned and West Grand Boulevard. The route passes through downtown, Midtown, and New Center. M-1 Rail officials expect about 6,000 riders to use the transit system each day during the first year of operation. Joining me now is the project's Director of External Relations, Summer Woods, along with a member of the M-1 Rail Community Advisory Council, Kalia Burt-Gaston, who is the Executive Director of Vanguard Community Development Corporation. Welcome to American Black Journal.
Thank you.
I am not going to give you too much business about this, but I've been hearing that construction is going to start on this project for 6 years. I don't think I believe you until I go out Monday morning and see the pylons and stuff.
You can come out. We're going to be there. So no, it is actually happening. It's finally happening. Matt Cullen and I were just laughing about this the other day, that it has been 7 years in the making.
Yeah.
And when you have a similar project like this, because it's the first of any kind and different partnerships with the federal government, the state, and the city, it takes a little bit longer, but we're making it happen. So it is going to happen. Construction starts on the 28th.
Yeah, and it starts with just a segment of the route. I mean, we're not closing all of Woodward.
Correct.
From Larned to Grand Boulevard, where it's just that lower part, right?
So the first part that is going to take place is just from north of Campus Marshes just to Adams, and so that's right by Grand Circus Park.
Right.
So we do want to make sure that people are very aware that it's not the entire corridor and kind of get nervous.
Right.
Especially as we have our businesses in Midtown and North End and New Center. So it's going to be for about 4 months, 120 days, but all the cross streets will be open, so people can still cross over Woodward, as well as the pedestrian walkways will be open.
Yeah, and the construction that they're doing now, I mean, they're going to close this. When they're done, will the rails and the stations all be there?
So when we're done, we're going to be done before Thanksgiving, so Santa can come down Woodward.
He can ride the light rail.
He can ride absolutely. So we are going to be done by Thanksgiving, so we don't impede on the parade.
Right.
And when it is done, there will be rail.
Right, you won't have to come back to that section.
No.
Again, it's just then a matter of building.
So the only thing that we'll have to do is we'll come back and we call it our vertical work, where we put the stations up.
I see.
Yeah, but in Campus Marshes,
stations, right.
absolutely. But Campus Marshes, we do have to come back because there's a specialty track around the actual park.
Yeah. Well, I've sort of wondered how that's going to work. You know, it comes down and it'll have to go around,
Correct.
I guess, on either side.
Yes.
So that we don't mess that up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's going to have to be we'll have to come back in 2015 to finish that up.
Yeah. So what are you telling the people in this community? I mean, I live in that neighborhood, by the way, so I'm not looking forward to the disruption. But I get, you know, this is the kind of infrastructure we need. What are you telling people about how they should navigate this? What are you telling businesses about how they should survive that 4 months when maybe foot traffic is not
Right.
as
Well,
good as it is?
there's a lot of wonderful initiatives really, I think, going to be implemented to support small businesses. And so I know Sue Mosey is working with M-1 Rail and small businesses to make sure that there are parking alternatives, that there are special events that will, you know, assist and help to draw businesses and, you know, residents together in the corridor as the construction is going on. And I mean, just being a part of, you know, the advisory council, we've heard a lot from residents, we've heard a lot from small businesses, and then other major stakeholders who are along that Woodward Avenue corridor. And I think the biggest thing is people wanting to make sure that it actually was going to happen. And so with construction starting really, you know, on Monday, I think now people will want to know and pay more attention to street closures and the zones and the timing of the construction, because now it's real and their life may be, you know, impacted in some way, when before it was, you know, people still thought it was a pipe dream.
Right. And so, I mean, will you be able to cross the street on foot during this? They're not going to close it off entirely.
Correct. I mean, we want to make sure that it's still accessibility for the businesses. We know that foot traffic is important.
Right.
I mean, we went all the way down to, even in terms of the barricades that we're using, we're not using tall fence barricades to block signs. We're using bike racks so that you can actually see the viability and all of those things. So that was important as we went through the process.
Yeah. And the businesses, no one's closing because of this. No one is saying that they can't they can't deal with this. I mean, everybody is sort of anticipating it. And then, of course, on the back end, we'll have a train, which you know, it's not the most effective transit that I've ever seen, but this is going to make a big difference in that corridor.
Because it's a bigger conversation as it relates to just regional transit and getting us to think differently about transportation. And it's not just transportation, but it's also an economic development.
It's development,
tool.
right.
And you know, I know, especially with Kalia's doing in Vanguard and in other CDCs along the corridor, it is important. It is critical as it relates to just how development is being done, that people look at those stops and what's taking place as well.
Right. This is a big step in development, but all along that route, you've got a lot of other stuff sort of coming online that will help feed, I think, the development that the rail will bring.
Yeah, I mean, this is, not only a game changer for Midtown and, New Center, but this is a game changer for the North End. I mean, this is a neighborhood, historically, that has suffered about 50 years of disinvestment. And just with the announcement and the impending construction, we have about 200 units of housing in pre-development. And so we're seeing developers from New York, Boston, who are interested in investing in the North End.
In the North End.
In the North End, east of Woodward, not west of Woodward, east of Woodward, and so we all know about those east-west divisions.
Yeah.
So it's really Vanguard's job and really my job to advocate for as much investment east of Woodward. And so, there are a number of philanthropic partners that have been at the table and, remain committed to really revitalizing the North End. So this is big.
And so tell me about some of the things that they're thinking about there. I mean, that's a neighborhood that over, I don't know, 20, 25 years has really emptied out, I mean, dramatically, but still has a strong community. I mean, I've always been impressed that despite the numbers, the people who still live there are very active, they're very cooperative. I mean, they're working together. What are the things, though, that it's not going to be, as densely populated as it was before? So what's the vision for that area of the city?
Yeah, well, I think there are a couple of things. The North End really represents the spectrum that we see all across the city. I mean, we have the area south of East Grand Boulevard, which is, very much situated for loft development.
Yes.
The area actually that we lost the most population is closest to East Grand Boulevard, which matches perfectly with transit-oriented development. And the neighborhood is only about 30% vacant, so it's considered a moderately vacant neighborhood.
Okay.
And so with those market forces coming, we know that there will be new housing, there'll also be homesteading, because we do have to deal with the vacant land in the neighborhood. Just this past year, we launched an owner-occupied rehab program with support from the Kresge Foundation. And so the purpose of that was to provide resources, 50% loan, 50% grant, for homeowners to make external repairs to their homes. And so, that is the type of revitalization really that needs to take place block by block. So you gotta deal with everything. You gotta do new construction, you gotta deal with vacant land, you gotta deal with, stabilizing the existing housing stock, which rivals anything else in the city.
Right. And that investment, that external investment is what we didn't see for so long, not just in North End, but throughout the city. And now I hear that the New York Times is going to spend a whole year in the North End. I don't know if that's good or bad, right?
Yes. John Elegant, is the reporter, and Vince Keenan in the mayor's office made that connection for us. And so it's a big opportunity. I've been very vocal with John to tell him that we don't want the same old story, about the North End, because it is a neighborhood, as someone close to me said, has been the stepchild of the Woodward corridor for a long time. And so we want to definitely show the challenges, but then we also want to talk about the promise in the neighborhood and use this as an advocacy tool to say, pay attention to us, invest, because now's the time. The time is right.
Right. And it's really up and down this 3.3 mile stretch. It's the stations that you feel like are going to make the sort of development difference, and that's why there are so many. I mean, there's I can't remember what the
we
number
have 20
is.
stations.
20 stations. That's a lot along 3 miles, but that's because you're trying to get people they become hubs, right?
Absolutely, and we've seen it in other cities. Even before Tucson, they're getting ready to open up their streetcar, and they've had 140 businesses to come to their corridor. A lot of them were around stations, and so that is the reason. It does create walkability, and that's what was critical for us as we looked looked at that from a transit-oriented development.
Yeah. So late 2016, I'm going to be able to get on this thing and ride up and down.
Absolutely.
That's too long. I need it now.
You know, the interesting thing is that we're moving very aggressively.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a very aggressive schedule because our goal is to get in and out so we don't give too many headaches, as you were saying, but we know it's going to be a little bit of pain for really a long-term gain.
Right.
And that's what our goal is to get in and out. So it's an aggressive schedule.
Right.
It is a very aggressive schedule,
Yeah.
but we're
and it's going to go on the side of the road, not in the middle, correct?
So when the most southern terminus by Larned, it is center running, and then it goes to curb running all the way down to, you get to 94.
Okay.
And then it goes center running
and it goes
for those
back
last
to,
three.
So what's the reason for the difference there?
Well, a lot of it is just in terms of going under the viaduct for 94.
Okay.
You have a lot of this, Woodward is not very leveled. That's a part of it, which is a major part of it.
Right.
People always think but it's not leveled. So that played a role in it as well. So.
Okay. And the parade, of course, my friends over there would be very angry if I didn't ask that there's no disruption to the parade because of the construction.
And, so we're going to work fast and make sure, but we're also working with Tony Michaels at the parade company that if something happens, we need to move some barrels, we'll do that. But even long term, we took that into consideration as it relates to the track and how it relates to just all the wiring with the balloons and floats as well.
Right, right. It's a difference, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is. It is.
All right. Well, we'll see Monday morning if I can't cross Woodward to get on the other side in a car.
And you have to make sure that you go online, and when you go online to our website, we have an update interactive map that's going to give a play-by-play of what the construction is. Absolutely. So where people can plan ahead. So you can always call me.
Yeah,
if you have some issues.
right.
We'll move some barrels for you, Steve.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, this is exciting. Good to have you guys here.
Thanks for having us.
Yep.